Tales of Mithrym.
Scales of Justice, read by Ennatos. Part 1. Wanted. The hot sun of Kanath was setting behind the walls and roofs of the great city of Alexia. As the thick air of the day began to give way to cool night breezes, and the gentle scent of wood fire rose from the chimneys of the houses. The tall sandstone structures stood out in clear silhouette against the bright orange of the sky. And, for a moment, it seemed that the city was almost at peace. Not a creature appeared to be stirring, and the large market squares looked empty and still after a busy day of commerce. Every now and again, the faint sounds of domestic animals could be heard as they began to feed in pens and coops, with grunts and clucks of contentment. Following this came the echoing sounds of doors and shutters being closed and locked for the night ahead. Yes, for a moment, the city was at peace. Crash! The stillness was broken as a door burst outwards into the street, slamming hard against the wall and cracking slightly under the pressure. Noise and light from the room inside rolled out and down the way, followed shortly after by a man. He stumbled at first, almost falling prone as he avoided crates and casks being stored there. He quickly gathered himself, though, and looked around pensively for a direction to run in. His dark face paled with fear as his eyes moved quickly, and he focused on a clear line ahead. Pausing only for the briefest of moments, he began to run. He was in pain, and he was afraid, but right now he had a direction to run in, and this gave him new hope, as his stumble turned into a sprint that took him hurtling through the early evening. The sound increased, though, as several more figures emerged from the doorway behind him. They were carrying long poleaxes, each fitted with a club or pick on their counterside. These men were better dressed, in the uniform of the city, and clad in heavy chain and plate armor with tall, ridged helmets. Their iron-shod boots sounded heavily on the flagstones, and they raised their voices in cries and shouts for the man to halt. He did not. But as the pack now moved its way through alleys and streets, more of the uniformed wardens appeared from guard posts and lookout points to join the chase, throwing up clouds of dust and echoing loudly in all directions. Still more shouting, and still more armored men and women came to the hunt. Tentatively, some of the shutters and doorways to the houses either side of the commotion seemed to open. Not far, but far enough the careful eyes began to watch. Hidden and cautious as the figure continued along, and quick to retreat into the shadows as the wardens followed after. One pair was not quick enough, however, and one of the running officers stopped to bang loudly on the door. The other windows hastily but quietly closed in response. The price for disobedience was quickly becoming well known. Further up the street, the running man came out into a large square. Carts and stands sat at rest, covered with large blankets and cloth to protect them from the weather of the night. Across the way, at each exit, the man could make out approaching figures in all directions. Many of the wardens were carrying torches as the light of day began to fade away. His heart raced and his breathing quickened. He turned quickly on the spot, looking this way and that for salvation. Finally, he made his choice, running over to a cart near one wall and throwing off its cover to reveal many boxes and barrels beneath. The square quickly filled with the pursuing wardens, but the man's work was fast. After only a few moments, he had begun to climb up hastily stacked crates and casks to reach the nearby rooftop. Gauntleted hands grasped at his ankles, but he pulled up just in time and they closed on nothing. He fell to the flat of the rooftop, panting and wheezing from the effort. Sound behind him quickly roused him, though, as the wardens attempted to follow up the wall. Groping hands could be seen in the dull light, reaching up and grabbing onto the brickwork. For a moment a head could be seen, looking over the parapet. It fell down as a crash was heard below, and a commotion rose in the square again as crates and barrels spilled their contents on the officers beneath. The hands did not let go, though, and soon the head rose again. The warden pulled up hard and crawled prostrate onto the rooftop as well. The man was up again, though, and running fast over the houses. The warden rose to follow, gritting her teeth and snarling as she did. The man was getting tired now. He could feel it in his muscles. His head was swimming as his mind raced, but still he did not give up his flight. The warden was closing it hard behind, however, well trained and less fatigued by the chase so far. The man looked about as they moved. The roof was coming to an end, and there was a gap of some 2 or 3 cubits to the next house. Could he make it? His pursuer was not going to give up if he did not even try. His body screamed in protest at the thought, though. He gritted his teeth with fresh resolve and eyed the edge of the roof. Maybe, just maybe, he could do this. As he drew up on the low-walled edge, he leapt with 1 foot onto the ledge and sprang. Not across, but sideways and back down. The warden behind him continued straight on, landing hard on the roof of the next building. The man stayed low where he was and crawled across to the other side of the building. Sounds of cursing came floating across to meet him, but he paid them no heed. At length he found what he was looking for. An opening in the edge of the rooftop gave way to a ladder down to the street below. He surveyed the darkness carefully, listening for any sounds of his hunters. Perceiving none, though, he made his way down. The street was quiet, and a nearby alleyway led through to the working yard of a shop. Boxes, crates, and handcarts were stored all about, and the paving was well worn by the passage of many vehicles. The man made his way in and leaned up against the crates. At last the pain of it all caught up with him, and he bent double, his head spinning, wheezing hard. He threw up onto the ground and coughed. There was no sound around him, though, just the gentle breezes of the night. In time he straightened up and looked around for a doorway or passage. There were several. At least one of them appeared to be unlocked, leading through to a storage of supplies and animal fodder. He made his way over, but as his hand reached for it, he stopped. A sound behind him, a whisper on the night air as it shifted. He turned to look. In that moment, the darkness seemed to take shape. What he had taken for shadows now seemed to move towards him. A pair of eyes, broad and bright, yellow and keen like a cat, looked upon him. A mouth, filled with white teeth that glistened in the moonlight, opened wide, and all he was aware of was bright green fire. And then, oblivion.
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.